composer, but he is considered one of the last great classicists. So he absolutely is pulling from his predecessors, Mozart. He's pulling from Haydn.
It was very important for him to not just be an artist, but be a great artist. And following in the steps of Beethoven weighed very heavily on him.
He was critical of himself, and so I think he writes very carefully and very thoughtfully and very purposefully, but he also has a great understanding of the instruments. So for us, chamber music is really the perfect medium because he has these ideas about what works really well with each instrument, but he also knows how they work well together.
There are aspects of the trio when Brahms revisited in 1890. I think in particular he looked at the way he focused on the development section and going into the recap. So it was a look at the whole structure of the piece from the ground up.
We have had a lot of fun comparing the two. Most of the things that Brahms wrote that he revised and wrote again, he destroyed. Like he burned them. He did away with them. He was so frustrated with his own, what he thought were inadequacies.
Thinking about Brahms revisiting the work, knowing that much of Brahms' life he did draft after draft. He actually didn't even write his first symphony and publish it until he was 43, but he was working on it years and years and years along the way. So I think in his mind, Brahms was realizing, looking back on a piece he wrote in his 30s, how much he wanted to change it, and realizing he didn't want to leave it in that state.
So you really get a chance to see the compositional process come full circle when you see this later version that was so beautifully written. The first version gets almost no playtime. Nobody records it. You try to find recordings of it on YouTube. It's very, very hard to even find a recording. People just dismiss it as really not worth playing. And so everybody ends up playing the second version. But we have the first version, which is so informative, and it's really interesting to go back and see what's there and to think about why he revised it and why now we choose the second version.
Without a question, the 1891 version is a masterpiece and is above and beyond what he had created originally. But as a musician and personally, I am so grateful that I have the 1854 version because he struggled as a composer. He became what he was to become. And that's a real testament to me as a musician and a composer myself.
I think Brahms's work is enduring because it works in miniature and it works in large form. There have been moments when we've been rehearsing together where we've had to just stop and say, this is why we are musicians. Like, this is why we're here. There are really great moments like that in Brahms.